Okay. Okay, we're going to start. Good evening and welcome to Showtime TV Productions Zoom Facebook Live edition. I'm your host, Omar Rashada. The topic of discussion is women of color who fear for their sons' lives. Right now, I have three distinguished guests. They're no strangers to the community. Ms. Antionette Blake, Marie Lopez, and Latoya Nkongolo, licensed clinical social worker. Good evening, ladies.
Good evening.
Okay, we're going to start off with Latoya. If you could introduce yourself and who is your son? How old is he? What grade is he in? What school do he go to? Then we'll go to Marie, then Ms. Blake.
Okay, sure. My name is Latoya Caldwell is my maiden name, Nkongolo. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I'm the owner of Work Life Behavioral Health Clinic located in Glen Burnie, Maryland. And since Omar has given me permission to brag on my son, I have a beautiful 10-year-old son. His name is Solomon, and he is in the Gifted and Talented program. He is a wonderful piano player, and he's also a great tennis player. And I'm very proud to be his mother. So thank you for having me, Omar.
All right, no problem. All right. Marie Lopez.
Marie Lopez, yes, I have 5 sons. I have 8-year-old Xavier, 12-year-old Nathan. I have 17-year-old Jai, 18-year-old Jermaine, just graduated from Mount Pleasant, and 24-year-old Deshaun.
All right, Antionette Blake.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I am Antionette Blake, better known as the ZE Diva, aka the Delaware blogger, and I am the owner of A. Blake Enterprises. But my best pride is my sons. I have a 28-year-old son, Tyre Ishmael Blake. He was a 3-month preemie. He weighed 2.5 pounds, and they said he wasn't going to live, but he's turning 28 next Tuesday. And our youngest son, Al-Malik Glorian Blake, is a recent graduate of Bowie State University, and he is 24.
Okay, I want to stay with Miss Antionette Blake. At one point, as a mother, did you have some sort of fear about your sons? I mean, was it at birth, or was it at 10 years old? Was it at 15? What point did you express some concerns?
Well, Omar, that is a great question. And for me, it was kind of double for me, because again, Tyre was born 3 months early, 2.5 pounds, and the nurses and the doctors and all the clinicians said he wasn't going to live. You know, he was too small to live. The condition that he was born with, he wasn't supposed to live. So the fear of that was right away. Fast forward, he is doing quite well. He is an adult with disabilities, but he's high functioning. But I still, to this day, every day, I pray for his safety, and to talk about the fact that, because he has a disability, I'm always in fear that people will be taking advantage of him. Fortunately, that has not occurred, but he has had his dealings with our boys in blue, some good, not so good, but he's been well protected. And then fast forwarding to his brother, who was always out there doing things and running and ripping. So the fear for him, I believe, probably started in elementary school, because we lived in a predominantly white neighborhood. So all of his friends were white. And so they would hang out and they'd walk around. And I used to have to tell Malik, you can't do what they do, because they will snatch you up. And he couldn't understand that. And for years and years and years, he always said that mom was prejudiced. But it wasn't until he actually went to Bowie State University that he realized mom was right. So it started from the giddy up.
Okay, Marie, you got 5 of them.
Well, my children have had different experiences. They're varied in ages, but of course I worry about them all the time, especially the oldest ones. And Omar, my boys, they're big. They're taller than I am. My 12-year-old alone is 5'9.5" right now, and he's only 12. Wow. So they're all big. And just like Antionette, I've always been afraid that people, because of their size, definitely being intimidated by them being Black males and huge, definitely that things would go the wrong way. Jermaine herself just, with the whole COVID-19 and social distancing, has had run-ins with the police officers just being in the parking lot of his own high school, and it hasn't been well. And my children are very well mannered, and I teach them well, and it's a very frustrating situation. Definitely, it's something that we talk about often in our home, and it's definitely something that I worry about every single day that they walk out of the door. I've always said, in this day and age, if something happened to my children, if it was just a random stranger, I wouldn't know about it. But if it was a police officer, I'd see it on Facebook or something before I'd find out about it. And that's definitely frightening thought, and that's something we live with every day.
Hey, Latoya?
Yeah, I think, as a mother, naturally, you're going to feel some anxiety when you bring a child into the world. And I think I've always had that level of just wanting to be the best mother, wanting to give my kids the best circumstances to decrease the odds or the chances that things are going to go wrong for them. I know I can protect them only to an extent, but just speaking from a social work perspective, knowing that the cards are stacked against men in terms of Black males and incarcerations, you're at higher risk if you're living in impoverished areas, if you have chronic suspensions and expulsions. So for me, I've always tried to position myself to make sure that my kids had the best chance at beating those odds, even though there's no guarantee. So just making sure that my husband and I were giving our kids a safe, structured environment, that we were raising them in a good neighborhood, a safe neighborhood. Those are some of the things that I think help me combat some of my fears. But reality is that those fears are still there.
Right. Maria, I know that you live in the city of Wilmington, the same block as my mom passed away, but my sister and my niece Maya, who graduated with your son. Is there ever concern, I guess, the fear that your sons will be harmed or even killed, unfortunately, so-called Black on Black crime? I know we spoke on, being stopped by police officers, and you got the recent incidents involving police officers. Young man in Atlanta, Georgia, just got killed in front of Wendy's. And then Mr. Lloyd, who got killed with his knee on his neck about three weeks ago. But is there a fear, or is there more fear that your son may be harmed by another Black male? Who wants to go first?
Definitely here in Wilmington. Definitely. And where I live at, we've been here 6 years now. And I can tell you the gunshots that we hear. I can tell you how many times my block has been blocked off. The rule in my house, before the boys have their vehicles, they can take the bus during the day, but I always have to pick them up at nighttime. Mm-hmm. There is a curfew, and especially with the older boys, why do I need a curfew? I'm over 18, whatever, because that's not where we're living at right now. That's not where we're living at. I need to know the who, what, when, where, and why, because if you don't come home, my mind is all over the place. It's not just, I hate the term Black on Black crime, because geographical, it's not, you don't hear about white on white crime. It's where you live at. But yes, just from walking out the door, bullets don't have necessarily a name. They may have a target, but they don't always meet their target. And so many stories just in the 6 years that I've been here, and I'm from Brooklyn. So it's not something that I'm not accustomed to. And it's something that I have tried to keep my children away from. But due to unforeseen circumstances, we had to move where we are now. I'm grateful for my neighbors. I love my neighbors. We definitely look out for each other. Right. But, anywhere in Wilmington, 3 blocks away, it's a different story. So yes, I fear for them every time they walk out the door, whether it's another person in the neighborhood or a police officer. And unfortunately, what the neighborhood and what everyone is, not just their encounters with police officers so far, they don't have the confidence to go to a police officer for help.
Mm-mm.
So even if they were in a situation, which they have been in a situations, my 17-year-old, he's huge. He's the biggest one in the house. He's over 300 pounds. He's over 6 feet.
Right.
2 years ago, you know, people have approached him and they do try to test him. And he's just a kid and he's the biggest teddy bear.
Right, yeah.
But he's afraid. And who does he go to for help? He's afraid to go to the police officers because of what he sees. He's afraid to go to anybody. So we've had so many situations where my children have been in a predicament where no one can help them. They've had to hold that in and come home and tell me. And, you know, the grief that I feel as a mom, like,
Right.
okay, you should have texted me. I would have been there with your other brother in like 2 seconds. But every day they walk out the door, they're facing some sort of obstacle, whether it's the police or whether it's someone in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I want to piggyback onto Marie. I mean, we grew up in, you know, Middletown, you know, suburbia, and now we're here in Smyrna. But Malik, like I said, graduated from Bowie State University. So he's an Omega Psi Phi. So he's going to be with his boys. He's going to go to DC every weekend. And I tell you, when he leaves, my heart, I swallow my heart until he comes home.
Yep.
And you know, I actually wrote a blog post about, you know, for 9 months I prayed for boys. Maria, I'm not sure if you prayed for boys while you were pregnant, same thing with Tanya, but I prayed. I didn't want girls. I did not want girls. And I prayed for boys.
Why is
And
that?
now I pray for my boys every day because, you know, that is just, you know, you have to have the talk. If somebody comes, approaches you, you know, if, you know, what, I mean, it's just like, I just live in fear. I remember when he was little, you know, we go in the store and I say, Malik, keep your hands out your pocket. They think you're stealing. And he couldn't understand that. And I'm like, that is the world in which we live. This is nothing new. Again, you know, all condolences and prayers to all the people that we're seeing now, but this is not new. We're just seeing it live and in person, it's video. But I'm a boomer. I grew up in the 60s during civil unrest. I grew up in the projects in New York. I know, I mean, I went to Dover High School with CR in the 70s. I know how racist it is. We as mothers can only protect our sons when they're here. Yep. And then when they go out and, you know, you never know. And now I can understand. I know, remember I was in high school and I always felt the guys I dated, I called them mama's boys, because their moms were like really overprotective. And I was like, man, this guy's a mama's
And now we
boy.
know why.
Now, yes, exactly. Now we know why.
We're fighting not just people knowing our children or misjudging our children, their perception of our children. That's what we're fighting. So regardless of how we raise our children, we are fighting the perception of other people as soon as they walk out of our doors.
Yep.
And I agree. And that's why, you know, for me, I try to do whatever I can to enhance my son's self-esteem. I want him to have a strong identity of self where if he goes into a room, he doesn't automatically feel threatened. That doesn't mean that other people in the room won't feel threatened by him. But right. I'll tell you a funny story. So he asked me, he was like, Mom, really? So I'm not supposed to be intimidated by anybody in the room? Like, what if I was in a room with Barack Obama? I said, well, I said, I don't want you to be intimidated by Barack Obama, because guess what? You have something that he doesn't have. You are an awesome coder. You know how to do Scratch. Like these certain games that he plays. I'm like, I bet you know that better than Obama. So I have to always make him feel good and make him feel confident, because the world is going to be wanting him to feel less confident about himself. So I don't want his spirit to be broken. And that's my job as a parent, to lift him up, because everything in this world is going to be counting against him. And I don't want him to go out here with that mindset.
And that's a great, you know, analogy, because, you know, if you think back on our history, even, you know, 1619, you know, even slavery, our men were made to feel less than. They were broken bucks, and they did this intimidation in front of women. So as mothers, we felt that our husbands were being broken down. We didn't want that to happen to our sons. So what we did was we kind of protected our sons, sheltered them, tried to weaken them so that they wouldn't get the same beatings. They wouldn't get the same breaking of a buck that their fathers and their uncles and their grandfathers. And that is, I'm finally seeing that the tide is turning, and it has taken a long time, but I'm glad to see that it is turning. Like you said, Latoya, you've got to instill something into your son that makes him stand out, and he is intimidated by no one. No one, because for years and centuries, we have been intimidated. The Black man has been intimidated from the time he walks out his door. And then as women, as protectors, we try to make our sons weaker, because we don't want them to go out there and have to suffer the same thing. But now I want our sons to go out there and stand up, protect yourself, react. Don't let somebody tell you that you're less than just because the color of your skin. So that is great that you're doing that. And that's what we have to do.
But then the flip side of that, because it's a double-edged sword, because we're teaching them to be proud, but then when they go out in the real world and you have police officers, they're telling the police officer, no, I didn't commit a crime, so I'm not going to show you my identification. That's life or death.
Yep.
And you're absolutely right. And I can tell you that, the sad part for me is that my son is extremely gifted. He is an amazing child. And I have two running lists here. I have lists of schools that I know he has the potential to go to one day, but I also have a list of the best criminal defense attorneys. The money that I'm making, this is the reality. This is my reality. I have the money saved that will either take him to an Ivy League school or will pay for that attorney to keep him out of jail. I'm that determined to protect him as best as I can. And these are just some of the measures we have to take as mothers of Black sons.
That's right. That's amazing. It's just, like I said, I was telling you before we went live, that's the only reason why I signed up for Legal Shield, because I wanted to have that protection while Malik was in college, for him to be able to call, because it's going to happen. He's got pulled over, handcuffed, pulled out of his car, and just because he's a Black man in a BMW in Baltimore.
But some people don't get to that point. They don't get to need a lawyer. You're planning a funeral. And that's what hurts me every time before we go out the door. I can get them out of jail. Yes, I can fight their case. But can I get there? Can I get to that point?
Right.
When I was thinking about this show, one of the questions that came to my mind is, the fear greater for a mother who is single versus a mother who is married? Because if she's married, she has a man right there to teach them about
It's still right here.
Okay.
No, I mean, yes, your husband is there because that's your partner, but a mother's love, there's a fear. There's just a fear, and I know my husband fears for our sons as well. But even together, you're just scared. You're just scared.
You're just sharing the burden. It doesn't take it away. It doesn't make it better, because at the end of the day, they're still walking out that door alone.
Bingo. Exactly what you said. Exactly what you said.
We had, this is the 19th day of the protest after Mr. Lloyd was killed and murdered. We had a protest here in Wilmington, was Dover, Middletown, all across the country. I want to ask you, ladies, have any of you participated in the protest march? And if so, did you think about your own son when you were looking at, when you were marching to the death of Mr. George Floyd, Trayvon Martin, and all the others who were unfortunately killed by the police? So who here on the panel participated in the march? And did you think about your son while you were protesting? We start off from Maria.
Definitely. The very first protest I didn't know about, and my children are just a spitting image of me. So Jermaine texted me and said, "Mom, I'm going to the protest." So I had to run it down for him. And okay, the minute it goes left, honey, you got to get out of there. You go home. Like, it's fine when it's peaceful. The minute it goes left, you go home. And that was the day that everything turned into the riots.
Right.
And then one of my friends was caught out there. So me being who I am, I'm running out the door. Oh, my friend needs me. And then my son, of course, he's not going to let me out the door by myself. So he runs with me. So then we get caught up with that. And then that same Friday, I was out there and I was solo. And yes, I was thinking of my children. I was definitely holding my sign saying when he cried, when George cried for his mom, I heard him. You know, all moms heard him. So yes, whenever I'm fighting for anything, it is for my children. Everything I do is for my children. It's very emotional. Every time I see a case out there, I think because of all my children and all the ages that it could very well have been one of my sons out there. So and it's funny, I say on Facebook, I watch everybody's children grow. I'm everybody's auntie. Like, just know they don't know me, but if I see them and they say, hey, this weird lady came up to me, you know, and told them I'm your auntie, then you know that's it, don't worry about it. It was me. So yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, hold on one moment, please. I'm sorry. I'm on a call.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I went to the one in Middletown, the Sunday, the peaceful march and protest in Middletown. And I went, you know, to support, but also to cover the event. So I was live on Facebook. And I was looking around, I was looking at the young people, I was looking at the older people, I was looking at Black people, white people, you know, Asians, there was, you know, imams there were bishops there were, you know, everybody was there. And I'm thinking, we are still doing this.
Yep.
We are still doing this. And it's like, when will we be judged by our character, not the color of our skin? And I thought about my sons, and I thought about all the sons, and the one son that really hurts me is Emmett Till. I can't imagine, you know, just he didn't do anything, but yet he was killed because they just didn't like what he did.
No,
just because
they dragged him out.
Dragged him out of the house in the middle of the night.
Like it was okay.
Yeah.
And the adult man could not do anything because of the fear. Oh, that hurts my heart. If someone ever came, I would fight tooth and nail for my son. I would kill somebody for my son. But can you imagine? That is how dehumanized we have been. They threatened the uncle by saying, if you say anything, you'll die.
Yep.
And so this is the privilege that they feel that they have. They can tell us how we can defend our own. Because you know I would have, no, I can't say what I would have did, but you know how we would have felt.
Mhm.
You know,
I wanted to just jump in, Omar, because I did go to a protest. And when I went to the protest, I absolutely thought of my son, but I thought of the larger picture here. You know, this is bigger than police brutality. I want the changes that come about that's going to make this world as much as my son's as it is, or as anyone else's as it is my son's. I want him to feel that this world is just as much as his. So for me, I'm thinking that this protest is moving us towards possible, you know, changes, equality, and the things that are going to make my son, you know, feel like he's as part of this as anyone else.
yeah.
You know, Omar, I know this show is about our fear, but it starts with, I don't have an answer for my children. We raise them, like we said before, we raise them to love everyone, to respect everyone, to expect respect in return. And when they come of a certain age, what do we tell them when they say, why is that happening? Why don't they care about us?
Right.
There's no legitimate answer to give them.
Mm-mm.
And that's heartbreaking, time and time and time again. For me, I know there were riots in the past, in the 60s. There were riots before that. My turning point when I was coming of age was the LA riots. Oh my gosh, we finally got it on video though. Like it's video. And back then there wasn't any cell phone. It was like, wow, somebody actually had their VHS.
Like that big video camera.
Like they got it. It's all grainy and everything. Like they got it though. We got them. And what happened? It's a slap to the face. Well, my boys, their turning point is everything that's been happening over the last 7 and 8 years. And I'm saying this because the last 7 and 8 years, it has not stopped. and we have it on recording. And now cops are getting fired. Okay, but charges.
Yeah.
How about it shouldn't be happening to begin with?
Right.
And then just a lack of apathy from everyone saying, well, if you just wasn't committing a crime, well, a cop is not judge and jury.
No.
And the sentence is not supposed to be death for a $20 fake bill. Like, it's, what do I tell my children when they ask why?
Right.
Why are people even saying this is okay? Why do we have to march? That's why my son is angry. They cry. They cry, and they don't cry for a whole lot of things. But whenever these things happen, and it's all on Facebook, and then it's another one pops up, and then another one pops up, and it hurts them. It breaks their spirit, and everything that I've taught them and how I raised them goes out the window, because it's what they see, not what you tell them.
And how about all the ones that we don't see?
Right. Yep.
Have any of you, and I think I know the answer, but I don't ever want to assume. Have any of you had that talk with your sons in regards to what to do when you get stopped by a police officer?
Yeah. I mean, when I think, from the time you want them to get their license, you're so happy the day that they get their license, but then you have to sit down and you have to have the talk. And before we went live, I was talking about how in my son's vehicle, they have all their information. This was back in the day when Hudson had the Hudson ID visor, and their license, their registration, insurance. And this is folded, and we have it in my car too. And this goes on top of the visor, because I don't want them reaching into a glove box and give them any reason to suspect. And my biggest fear is my son has his car windows tinted. That's a fight I'm losing, but I remember when I was a young buck, I wanted things my way too, not thinking, but I can't, I am scared. I live in fear every time he leaves the house, every time Tyre leaves the house and drives to Middletown. What happens if he gets pulled over by a cop? And like I said, Tyre is intellectually disabled, but he's high functioning. But suppose a cop pulls him out and he has a speech impediment and he can't respond timely, or he jerks, his body jerks because that's his body, and the cop thinks he's doing something, wrong, and bang, bang, bye-bye. So yeah, we've had to talk. It's like, just wait, just sit there and wait till they come to you.
But the thing that I also explain to my kids, we are being attacked for being human. We as human beings have our natural fight or flight. So if you're getting arrested and a cop is being aggressive, you're going to fight
or flight.
And either way is a death sentence. Or if you do neither and you just sit there and you're just protecting yourself, that's resisting. Because you don't take it. Your natural human reaction is to cover yourself. That's resisting. How do I tell my kids to get around that? There is no way around that. Except to just never leave the house.
And Marie, I hear you, and I definitely hear a heightened sense of anxiety, and it's warranted. No. I mean, it's warranted because of the climate of today, and the fact that you have young men, and I feel like we can try to manage our fears and our anxieties as best as possible. If we rely on the media, if we rely on what is being put out there on Facebook and the news, then our narrative in our mind is going to be that my son is in danger every time he walks out the door, that there is going to be some threat to his life every time he walks out the door. So for me, I have to remind myself of the good experiences that I've had with police officers, that not all police officers are bad. I had a situation where my son had went missing. At least we thought he had gone missing. The neighborhood watch, the police were here. They flipped over trash cans. They were looking in cars. They were on our side. They were there fighting for my son and crying along with me. So I try to tell my son that the police are not his enemy. That if you show respect there's a good chance you're going to get respect in return. Again, there's no guarantee to this, but I don't want fears. If fears are reinforced, it's only going to increase the anxiety, and then it's going to create that fight or flight syndrome that you're talking about. So the best way to handle a situation like that is to kind of freeze and ask yourself, it's an acronym I use called WAIT. Why am I talking and what am I thinking? What do I want the outcome to be here? And it just gives you time just to kind of decompress and think through the situation and handle it in your best interest. So these are just little tips that I try to use. I have a teenager, she's a girl, she's a little more emotional, but at least these tips kind of help her manage her emotions. But you know, we don't want to reinforce our kids' fears, because then that will create an irrational reaction that's not going to work in their favor.
Go ahead, Latoya. Being a licensed clinical social worker, there was a lady who was supposed to be a guest tonight. Unfortunately, she didn't make it. She lost her son, and he was murdered by unfortunately another brother a while back. When you see incidents like that, when you see the tensions among African Americans and police officers, as you mentioned, there's anxiety, there's trauma, there's depression. Have you seen an increase of clients in your practice or any other practice in the
Absolutely.
in particular because of situations, triggers, barriers? I mean, go on.
Yeah, again, I mean, I see it from, you know, with my practice, I have probably doubled in clients that I've seen since the quarantine, honestly. But I'm seeing people from all walks of life who are, you know, expressing just being sick and tired. They are tired of, you have people who are tired of hating, you have people who are tired of living in fear. But ultimately, what it boils down to is that we're all high emotions right now. Everyone is experiencing some sort of emotion that is just, you know, contributing to them feeling more depressed and more anxious. So what we got to do is just start trying to reframe our thinking as best as possible, so that way, you know, it's okay to feel anxious. We can normalize those feelings, but we don't want to avoid talking about it, and we don't want to reinforce those fears. And it's up to us as individuals to model healthy behaviors for our kids and for our family members as a whole. So there's just a certain way that we have to kind of operate right now just to maintain our sanity in a sense.
But don't you feel that as African American men, women, and children, we're always heightened in every aspect, whether it's shopping, going to work, you know, just living, you know, just being. I mean, I know I was corporate America for 32 years. I finally left the plantation, and I always felt, and I knew I could have been a lot further on than I was had I been a white girl or a white woman or whatever. So it's always, you know, you always know that you're going to only be able to get to so far, you know, to a certain point. My husband, I remember him getting pulled over. He was coming home from the dentist, and he's the biggest baby when it comes to any medical procedure. And he was handcuffed and arrested and taken in. And my husband is like, why? You know, it's like Ellesmere cops. They're just looking for people to harass. So we walk until we're together. Like, you know, we have our family, everybody's fam. Like Marie said, I'm aunt. We are all fam. We have to be fam because we are outsiders to them. We're made to assimilate into their world. We come into this world, and the first person we see is a white face. It's usually a doctor or a nurse. That's the very first person that we see. And that's probably the very last person that we see leaving. And yet, it's still, we've got a parallel world. We've got to live in their world, and we live in our world. They don't have to live in our world.
Right.
They don't have to. They don't have to. And that's what they don't understand. They don't have to give the talk. When a cop pulls them over, they like, yo, what's up? Let somebody like our son do that. Yo, what's up? No, that don't work. What up, officer? I've seen white people beat up cops, and the cops just backing up. Let my son try that. He be shot. Be over. Right. So we're living in, this is daily. When I walk out of my house, I moved here from Middletown, and I would walk through my neighborhood, and there was white people in the neighborhood, and hi, how you doing? They look at me like I have 4 heads. What? Why is she talking to me? You know, why is she in here? We were told that, you know, we didn't know you were the good Black people.
Mm.
This was like 26 years ago in Middletown. We didn't know you were the good Black people. What?
What's good, Black people? What's that?
Yeah, what's a good Black person? So now I can say to you, well, we didn't know you were the good white people. I don't know, because it's just, you just live like, and then, like you said, now we're seeing it on a daily. And of course, it's just exploding. It's exploding. It's just frustrating.
Latoya, I think you made a very, very good point. And I think that is not being taught to us. Like Annette said, we do live in this heightened sense of everything. And with social media now, it feeds into our fears. So as much as I don't want to scare my children, and it's not something we talk about unless it's brought to their attention through social media. So now, where do we go to help, like you said, to manage that with them so that we're properly educating them, but not making them paranoid?
Right.
Or making them think that it's not real, because it is real. It is
right. It's the reality. It is the reality. And, that was one of the things I think for me, my son asked me probably shortly after George Floyd's video went viral, or when it was exposed. He said, "Mom, why are so many cops killing Black people?" And when he said that, I kind of like freaked out a little bit. I panicked. But what I did was I packed bags. I packed my therapeutic coloring books and all my little activities. And we went down to the beach and we had a conversation about it. And I told him, I said, this is something that has happened historically, but I did again share with him that, this is something that does not happen, as often, but it does happen. If you have 400 Black men or 400 people being murdered by police and 50% of them are Black, and then we're 13% of the population, that is a problem. But I told him, either we're going to be complaining about the problem or we're going to be a part of the solution. The solution is that we need to now position ourselves and put ourselves in those political seats, in those schools, in those police academies, so that way we are now being represented. So I talk to my kids about solution-focused strategies, so that way we're not living in a fear of anxiety. I want them to know that they do have some control over their lives and the choices that they make. And, and yeah, we do have cards stacked against us. I worked in, in administrative levels, and that's why I opened my own business, because I saw the glass ceiling. I wasn't getting anywhere. When I went to open up my office and the owners of the buildings were telling me that they have no vacancies and they're all leased, and I'm still seeing lease signs years later, I said, guess what? I'm going to buy my own building. There are just certain things that we have to now just go around the walls, go over the walls and kick over the walls and make the choices to better ourselves and not expect that these things are going to change overnight or for us. They're not going to change for us, but we can be that change.
That's right. That's right. We have to.
I want to talk about, we talked about the community, we talked about the, being stopped, but I want to talk about the concerns in terms of the educational system, because two of you have kids that's in at least elementary, maybe junior high. And for Black boys, this education system don't always go fare too well. I remember going to school, and the majority of us were either in special education classes, we were suspended at a higher rate. And then now, you got school bullying. We always had school bullying. Is there a fear that your child is not going to be educated well? Is there a fear that your child may possibly be, if he hasn't already, been a victim of bullying? Because bullying today is pretty rough. Marie?
We've definitely deal with the bullying. We deal with that a lot. As far as getting a fair shot in the education system, that's really up to the parent to be very aware of the school choices that are out there, because a lot of schools, I've learned the hard way, just going to certain feeder schools in certain geographical areas, know the children are not getting a great shot at what is out there. However, when you look into the schools that are still within your district and you choice them out, I've been fortunate to find great schools for my children. So after a lot of hit or miss and trial and error. We definitely found a lot of good ones. That doesn't stop the bullying. My 3 older ones are my complexion. My little ones are very, very fair. My 12-year-old has red hair, very, very. But their last name, Lopez. They're Spanish. They go to a bilingual school. They speak Spanish. They went to very, very good school. And then in middle school, now they're dealing with racism, but racism because they're white. So it's different. Like, it's been a very, very hard year this year for my 12-year-old, being told things like, you'll be the one to shoot up the school. Yeah, we've definitely been dealing with that a lot. The one who just graduated, I have a lot of conversations with him. He likes to wear his hair long. He's the pretty boy with the long curly ponytail. He's dealt with bullying from the guys and everything else. He's not proud, he said, of his academic career because he's dealt with a whole lot of bullying. He's definitely one to never back down. So he's held his ground and he stood up for himself each and every time. But the fact that he's had to do that so many times, it dampens everything. So even though you may not have gotten, the mess beat out of you, it still hurts and it's still traumatic experience. And it is something that we deal with. But I think especially with cyberbullying now, I think everybody at some point deals with bullying. I'm a very huge advocate. My oldest son had ADHD, and because of the medication he was on, he has Tourette's now, basically. So he was bullied. He didn't really have a whole lot of friends, not until he got to the end of junior high school and high school. And we've dealt with a whole lot of that and had him in counseling for a while because he was in the 3rd grade suicidal because of what the kids do. It's very awful, and you really have to be a very involved parent and advocate for your children. You have great teachers. You have some teachers who are underpaid and don't want to deal with that, or they have overcrowded classrooms. I've dealt with everything under the sun, from being a younger mom to now experienced and no more. But it's out there. I don't think it's any longer a question of if. It's happening in some shape or form. It's happening, like I said, whether it's cyberbullying or right in the classroom. And it's something that needs to be talked about more because it does affect our children. It affects them a lot. My oldest son, I didn't want to mention school, so he goes to Conrad School of Science. It is predominantly white, and he's again, his mom's child. Spirit Week, when it's, hey, wear United States stuff, he's wearing a Puerto Rican flag. Like, we're a territory of Puerto Rico. So he gets into a whole lot of debates with his colleagues, students who are very much Republican. I don't want to say it, but with they share a lot of those views. And he been called that word quite a few times. And what is he supposed to do about it? I mean, it's almost like a way of life now. You just have to figure out a way around it. Latoya, like I said before, I think parenting classes should really be part of a curriculum for all the students' parents when they're coming in as freshmen or whatever. I think it should be offered by the school to help with these things and to help us to help our children if they're not able to do so. Help us have the tools to help our children instead of learning through trial and error.
Absolutely. And I feel like for our community especially, there has to be a 2-generational approach. There just has to be. And, any child I work with, I need to touch the parent. We need to have family sessions because you're dealing with kids and whatever's going on in the environment is going to affect them, whether it's the home environment or the school environment. And, even with me, like with my son, we had an incident recently where he was on a math Zoom classroom and he was answering all the questions and his teacher said, well, Solomon, why don't you give some of the other kids a chance to answer? And he got really frustrated. And where did my mind go?
because he's the only Black kid, the first thought I had in my mind. But I told him, I said, you know what, son? I said, out of consideration for the other kids, she does have to give him a chance. I said, but that doesn't take away from your genius.
Right,
said,
right.
That's just hate on your genius. But I just feel like I constantly, and my mother did it to me. She constantly, boosted my confidence and made me feel good about myself. And I'm very much like my mother in that sense. But yeah, school is scary, and we have to, incorporate families and we got to have a strong family structure and foundation for our kids, because nobody's going to protect our kids the way we will.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I actually taught school. I received my BS degree in elementary education from Dell State back in '83. So I taught school in the early 80s, and I could tell the difference between the students whose parents were involved versus those that were not involved. And because, Tair, we were very, very involved because he had the IEPs. We were always on the meetings. We wanted to make sure that we advocated for him because he couldn't do so for himself. But like you said, Omar, I remember Malik, he was smart, but he was bored. So like his mother, he liked to talk. So he was always talking. And I said, Malik, they're going to put you in the corner and they're going to call you the nigger. And then you're going to be in special ed. And this is what they're going to do to you. So you have to go. They're not paid this is their job. That's their house. So when you go there, you have to follow their rules. So don't tell me she don't like you. Well, that's fine. She doesn't get paid to like you. She gets paid to teach you. So they called me, they were very hesitant. Mrs. Blake, Malik was talking and da-da-da. I'm like, yep, that's my son. And I would take care of Malik and, get on him because again, as a teacher, this is, it has to be a partnership. Like Latoya said, my husband, 32 years in the state of Delaware, he retired from the middle school. And it got to the point that not only were the parents not involved, but the administrators and the supervisor, there was no bond there anymore. So the kids were just doing whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted. And now with the advent of social media, cyberbullying, which was never the problem when I was growing up, when my son was growing up, but now it's a whole different world. So the teachers and the parents, who are the adults, we're the adults, and we need to put these kids in their place. I beat my kids the whole time. I don't care. I'm not going to let you disrespect me or your teacher, because then you're going to go out, like Latoya said, you may come up on a cop and think you can beat him up. And then what does that get you? So no, we have to make sure, and it's funny when you said second generation, I thought about the fact that my grandma raised me. So she ain't play. So I had second generation teaching. And when I went to school for a reason. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And that's how it was in my house. So I think, parents need to get really more involved. Yeah. And don't say, no, that's not my son. That's not my daughter. It's your son. It's your daughter because they do it at home. Yeah. I knew Malik liked to talk at home. So why would he do it when he was in school? Yeah. So, you have to, there has to be that connection. It has to, there's something that we need to go back to, and we can't let the kids run us, period.
I think, and a common thread here is we're creating a safe haven for our children at home. That's what I've always done for my children. I make sure there's no judgment here. We act corny, we act silly. You're a kid, be a kid. That's what we do. No one has to be the hard one. And because of doing that, I begin to notice with my older children, when their friends who might not have a strong family background, they're bringing them over.
Right.
Like, hey, can they come and stay the night? Or so-and-so is having a problem. Can they come stay here for the weekend? Because this is our safe haven. And when we do that, I'd like to think that no matter, as long as they're safe, like the whole topic of the show, police brutality and everything, as long as they get to come home, I can take care of the rest.
Right.
I just want to make sure they come home. I'm not Catholic anymore, but I was raised Catholic, so I light my white candle and I pray just Catholic mercies, Psalm 120, 121, just make sure they come home, bring them home safely every night, bless them to and from, they're traveling, just bring them home.
And
Marie,
yep.
I have to echo what you said, because a saying that I tell myself often is that I refuse for my kids to walk out of the doors of a broken home into a broken society. If I'm going to have something safe for them and a place where they're going to feel that they are heard and valued and appreciated, it's going to be in this house, and their mom and dad are going to provide that for them at all costs.
Exactly. And it's true, because we make the decision to bring them into the world.
Absolutely.
So it is we give up our life to protect them. And I don't care how old you are, how young you are, what color you are, you know, single mothers, married mothers, doesn't matter. We made the decision. So now we've got to do what we're supposed to do. And that's to raise the kids the best that we can, give it. And sometimes you need to ask for help.
Yeah.
And there's no shame in that game.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know something, ask somebody. There's somebody out there that's going to help you, a neighbor, a friend, an auntie, a bae, a boo, somebody.
Mm-hmm.
If you just can't do it, then reach out.
You know, one of the questions that also arose in my mind when I was thinking about this topic is, when your son turns 21, 23, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 60, does the fear go away as the son grows, or does it stay for like forever?
Forever and ever and ever and ever.
Look, I'm in
look, when they turn 60, I'll be gone. So be gone. But I'll fear my son, because he's threatened me that, you know, like I said, I'll be 59 this year. He said, when I get old and see now, he's gonna roll me in the garage. That's when the fear go away, because it won't matter. I'll be in the garage. It won't matter.
You know, one of my favorite movies of all time, I have two favorite movies, Malcolm X and Boys in the Hood.
Mm-hmm.
Boys in the Hood, that was that special bond between the mother and the son. Ricky, Morris Chestnut, him and his mom had a very special bond. Not so much Doughboy. His friend Trey, played by Cuban Gooding Jr., his mother was Angela Bassett. It was a special bond. All three of you said that you were praying that you have boys. Why is that? I mean, so I'm talking about the bond between a father and a son. Let's start off with Latoya.
Yeah, so my husband doesn't say, "Where's your mom?" And when he talks to my son, he says, "Where's the love of your life?" So he always jokes with my son, because we have a very special bond. You know, I prayed for a son. I never prayed for anything else. I said, "Lord, please bless me with a son." And my son looks like me. He acts like me. He's very obnoxious, but he's the sweetest kid. And, you know, and I struggled with him. I was in the hospital on bed rest for 3 months. He almost didn't make it. And, you know, he's my miracle baby. So I have that bond with him. But I wanted to have a son because I wanted to bring a good man up in this world. I just wanted to actually contribute to society by bringing a good, strong man into this world.
Hey, Marie?
Well, I'm not going to say I always wanted. After 3 and 4, at some point, I thought I was going to have.
There he is.
My first one, I knew I was going to have a boy. I just knew it. I was a tomboy. It's like I wouldn't know what to do with the girl. So I had a boy, then I had another one, and then Jai, I just knew was going to be a girl. That's my third one. Nope. Came another boy. Nathan, I knew was going to be a boy. Now, the last one, Xavier, I really wanted to give his grandmother a granddaughter, but it didn't happen. At that point, I thought it would be terrible to have a girl and she would have 4 older brothers. And at this point, I don't know what to do with a girl. So yeah, we just roll with it. And we have a crazy house. We blow up the air mattress. We have WWE wrestling matches. We do the face paint. We go at it. I don't think a girl will fit in here. My niece came to live with us last year for a little while. We definitely had to give her own room. I said, I can't give you the last slice of pizza because the boys are going to take it, but I can give you peace. I can give you your own place to go into. Yeah, they drove her crazy, and that's what it would have been like. So I was blessed. God knew what he was doing. I can only have boys.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I prayed for my first son. And like I said, he was a 3-month preemie, 2.5 pounds. And like Latoya, he's our miracle son. And wasn't anything that I didn't do or whatever, that he was born with tracheoesophageal fistula. And the doctor said, there was 1 in a million, da, 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 da. But I said, that's it, no more. I'm not going through this again, because we were in and out of the hospital. He didn't come home for 5 months. I never got to hold him. It was just a whole lot. He had surgeries and, all kinds of things going on. But I remember one day he was playing with his dad. He must have been about a year and a half. He was on the floor playing with his dad and my mother-in-law at the time, when she was still alive. And I looked at him and I'm like, I can't leave this world, with him by himself. And I didn't tell my husband. I said, because we had figured that was it. No more kids. We're just going to have him, and that's going to be it, because we went through too much. But I didn't want to leave him in this world by himself. So I got pregnant, and my husband wasn't happy, but we had another boy, and I was so glad, because now he has his partner. So from the time Malik was old enough to understand, I told him about his brother. He could understand. And I said, Malik, no matter what, as long as your mother and father have breath in their body, we will take care of Tayer. But when we leave this world, it's going to be your responsibility to take care of your brother. So go out, do what you ever want to do, go to college, get married, travel the world. But no, one day you're going to be responsible for your brother. And that was years ago. And now that we've moved here, when we had this house built, all 4 of us was at the table. I wanted them to see what it took to have a house built and everything. And the house is for them. So they know this house is there. So when we're dead and gone, this is their house. So they built this house. We came out here every week to see the construction. They knew what they wanted. They both working, they buy whatever they want. But again, Malik, this is you and Tayer's house. So tell your wife, your bae, your boo, whatever, that this is it. So having those sons, I don't know. I mean, my husband and I play off each other. When it's Malik, it's like, your son, go get your son. Or I'll tell him, that's your son. But it's not like we have a bond, but I know, man, I got 2 bodyguards. So I know if anything ever happens, I got 2 bodyguards, and they are, when I take them shopping, which is rare now, but it's so funny, they're right behind me. Yeah. One left flank and one right flank. And I didn't teach them that. It's like they're right there. They're protecting me, and it's amazing.
It's funny because it's the mantra in our house. I always ask, and Wesley Snipes, am I my brother's keeper? That's what I have them say. And you say, yes, I am, because you are each other's keeper. That's it, because I'm not going to be here forever. And like you said, when I get older, you guys are going to get married, go wherever you want to get for one holiday a year. Doesn't have to be the same holiday. I'm going to respect your wives and their families and everything else, but we're going to be together. Wherever we're at, one holiday a year. That's why I want my acre. Before I leave this, I want my acre, because I want all the grandkids. I want to build tree houses. Like that's, I need to be that connection.
That family.
Them all together to come back to. Yeah.
Yes.
All right, ladies. So we got maybe about a good 15 minutes. Two of you have sons that graduated. Talk about the feeling of seeing your son getting that diploma, getting that degree. Maria, in 2020, there were those high school graduations, for the seniors. I mean, although they had a parade at the school, but as a mother, just talk about the feeling of seeing your son with that cap and gown, getting that diploma, getting that college degree. What goes through your mind?
It's like, and I've done it with Deshaun, and they laugh at me and they're like, oh, Mom, the whole year is emotional. I cry for everything. It's always like, oh, this is the last Christmas concert. Oh, this is the last spring play. Like, it's everything. It's, oh my God, I've been doing this for 4 years and coming to this, and all the kids. So when one graduates, they all graduate. There's their crew. They always have their friends. But when they get that diploma, when that's it, and you're like, you're sending them out into the world. Like, it's go time. It's great, because you love the person that they've become, and I love the friends that they've chosen to have and who they flock to. But it's so emotional, because at that point, it's like we've been talking about, we can't shield them from the world, and we pray over them and we pray for the best. But it's mixed emotions. You're happy, you're scared, and not just about the bad stuff in the world, just life. Just you want them to succeed. You want them to have the best of everything. It's emotional. I'm a crier, so.
Antionette Blake, go ahead.
Actually, let's see. So Tair graduated from Appoquinimink High School in, oh my gosh, what is this? I don't know, a long time ago. But that was fun. I mean, I was excited about that because, again, having a child was in special ed and IEPs and all that, to have a diploma, not just a piece of paper, a certificate. So he got his driver's license and everything while he was in high school, because we really worked hard with him. So that was a wonderful day. We had, big parties and family from New York and everything like that. And then actually he went on to the University of Delaware and attended a program that's for adults with disabilities. It's a non-degree 2-year program. And he was a college student. So it was amazing. It was just so great to see that. And then they graduated with the class at University of Delaware. So that was cool. Malik, I love my son to death, and I was happy he got out of high school, but it was so exciting. He got out, we did the party again at UDEL, Bob Carpenter Center. But let me tell you, when he graduated from Bowie State University,
right.
OMGZ, oh my God. First of all, and I'm gonna make this quick because Latanya's got some tips for the parents. I'm gonna let her wrap it up. But Roland Martin was the guest commencement speaker. Okay, so Roland is down to earth. He's a cool dude, right? So he's talking and talking. He's an alpha, and my son had pledged Omega Psi Phi, so he's still a neophyte. He's still barking and cats and brands and all that. So we go down to Bowie and we get to the graduation, and I'm waiting for my son, waiting, looking good, and I'm all happy. And he stomped the stage. And it's so funny because Roland is sitting there going, boy, just get this daggone diploma. So he stomped the stage. I've got it on YouTube, it was on YouTube. And then like last year, I went to an event where I spoke for Blogger Week, and Roland Martin was there. So I queued up the YouTube video and I said, Roland, you remember my son? And I showed him the video when he stomped the stage to get his diploma. Here's the cue, here's the wow. But it was amazing because as a graduate of an HBCU, to see your son graduate from an HBCU, because that is where, we're all from Del State, right? There is something about being on the yard with your fam, with your people. It's like, oh my God. And it's just that whole day, I didn't shed a tear, but I was so filled with joy and happiness that it's just a feeling of, you want them to go on and do their thing and see the world, but having that college degree, having that paper, having that cap, that gown means so much. It costs a whole hell of a lot of money too.
Okay, ladies, so I'm gonna give each of you a couple of minutes for any closing comments. You want to promote your business, your organization you're involved with, or your blogger, your licensed clinical social worker.
Anya, you go.
Let's start off with Latoya.
Okay, so if you want to reach me after today, you can like my Facebook page. It's Work Life Behavioral Health and Professional Training. So we provide mental health and addictions counseling services. We also do psychiatric medication management and Suboxone maintenance for opioid dependency, and we're located in Glen Burnie, Maryland. In closing, I just hope that the audience realizes that the mothers here on this panel love our sons. Our sons are our gifts. If you haven't heard anything else from us, you had to have heard the passion that we all feel for our sons. And I just want to take this moment to say, for any mother or any father out there, if for some reason you're disconnected from your child, I just strongly urge you to make that connect. Because our sons need us. They can't feel protected. They don't feel protected wholeheartedly outside of our doors. So moms, understand that your sons need you. Dads, your sons need you. Please reconnect with your kids, because family is everything. Charity starts at home, and we have to create that environment for our kids that's going to give them the best chance of life. Also, it's our job to make sure our kids' spirits aren't broken. This world is going to throw everything at us to make us feel bad about ourselves, but we need to make sure that we are uplifting our children every single day, that their self-esteem is intact and they have a positive self-identity. And the last couple of things I just want to say is that our kids need to see positive images of Black men. In my family, by the grace of God, my husband is an amazing man. I couldn't have picked a better father for my children. And I just hope all the young girls understand that. Please choose wisely. When you bring a child into this world, the person that you bring that child into this world with matters just as important as you. So we need to have positive images of Black men, and it starts with dad. There are uncles, grandfathers. Just please create those images for your kids, because they're more good men than the media wants you to see. Okay, yep. There are good Black men out there, and I see it every day in my family with the men in my family. A couple of books that I want to recommend. There's a book called I Am to America by Langston Hughes. I think all Black boys should read that. I think that, again, this world is just as much as theirs as it is anyone else's, and we need to remind them of that every day. Another book I met the author some years ago, the Book of the Pact, which was about 3 doctors that grew up in I mean, this book is an old book. It came out in 2002. Yep. They Black men also need to hold each other accountable. They need to support one another. I don't want my son to have to visit our family in Wilmington and his life is threatened there, and come back to the suburbs and his life is threatened here. It's not fair to our community. So we need to support one another and support our Black men.
Okay, Antionette Blake, you want to go next?
Sure, thank you so very much. And I'm just going to ditto everything that Latoya said, because we do need to project positivity. We need to bond. I mean, this is a great time. This COVID-19, I feel sorry for anyone that was affected by this or, lost their life due to it, but there's a reason for us to shut down, for us to stay in place, to self-quarantine. We have been given an opportunity to reconnect with our family, to be with our units, to have fun, to laugh, to connect, to share, despite all the anxiety, anger, and angst that's out there. This is the time that we're never going to get back. This is the time that we can slow down and just, enjoy and share with others. And if you can't, again, as a blogger, as a podcaster, someone that teaches people how to write out their feelings, people to talk out their feelings, think about writing it down, starting a journal, starting a podcast. Use your voice, your vision, your mission, because our gift from God is life. What we do with that life is our gift back to him. And if we can connect with like-minded people in a positive way, whether it's a blog, a vlog, or a podcast, please do it. And if you're interested in learning more about that, send an email to info@ablakeenterprises.com. You can find and follow me on all my social media platforms. If you go to linktree.com, I'm Del Blogger. Most people know me. If you just use the hashtag Delaware Blogger, I'll pop up somewhere, somehow. But this is the time that we need to connect. We need to share, we need to grow, and we need to build each other up, because the opportunity after this, I'll be long gone after, it's not going to happen again in my lifetime. So I want to be able to leave my mark, leave my legacy in the clouds using social media, because after I pass through the clouds, I want my sons, their sons, and their sons, and their sons to say, hey, mom was pretty cool.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Any closing words, Marie?
Just love on your babies. Love on your babies. Love on everybody else's babies too. I have a Etsy page. Other than Omar, my poetry and acting, I do holistic and metaphysical self-care products. So it's Prophetic Phoenix on Etsy page if you like the whole Irish moss, sea moss, and everything.
I need some sea moss.
Oh yeah, I got it all, girl.
We gonna connect afterwards. I need some sea moss. I was told it's the bomb.
It is. It really is. So I do a lot creatively, and definitely it's been a pleasure, ladies. I love the conversation that we've had before and even after the show. So I'll be connecting with you ladies. Yes. And thank you, Omar, as always, for having me
Mhm.
on the show, uplifting the community. You are such a pillar of the community.
You are.
Always
Yes.
Yes, you are.
we're talking about bringing positivity to the community. You succeed in that, and I thank you for that.
All right, thank you, ladies. And so we got to do this again. And thank everyone for
Absolutely.
this Zoom Facebook Live edition of Showtime TV. Stay tuned for more. God bless. Have a safe week.
Bye-bye.
All
Bye.
right. Bye-bye.
All right, Marie, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.